Thank you, Corrine. Hello, everyone. I hope all of you and your loved ones are healthy and safe. Thanks for making time to be with us on the phone today. This morning, I'm joined by ESPN Vice President of Production, Seth Markman, and NFL Network Senior Vice President of Programming and Production, Mark Quenzel. Before we get to questions, I'd like to invite Seth and Mark to share a few thoughts. And Seth, let's start with you.
Hey, thanks, Allie. Hope everyone is doing well, as Allie mentioned. Look, this is our 40th anniversary of ESPN presenting the NFL Draft. It's safe to say we've never had a year like this. Very challenging circumstances in the midst of COVID-19, yet we have a great opportunity here to bring fans across the country a little bit of hope, a little bit of joy, maybe a bit of an escape from what we're all experiencing day to day. You know, with this unique partnership with the NFL Network and some of the things we're putting together like Draft-a-thon, we have the ability to assist COVID-19 relief efforts, pay tribute to healthcare workers and others on the front line of the pandemic. We want to stress that we're also doing this adhering to proper social distancing guidelines and local workplace rules that have been put in place during the pandemic. We're really excited to collaborate with the NFL Network. As I mentioned, we have a real all-star group, as we've said, combining our ESPN team with the NFL Network team. And I think it's going to be a real win for the viewers, both on our ABC broadcast and this combination ESPN NFL Network broadcast. With that, I'll turn it over to a guy I've known for a long time and respected, is Mark Quenzel.
Thanks, Seth. So I think that I agree, obviously, with everything Seth said. I think that early on in this process, we decided that for the good of our viewers, that the best approach was to do a unified broadcast. And we went in, and again, Seth and I have known each other for years, and our teams have worked collaboratively on the draft for years. And I think the idea of coming in and saying, let's not try to do two shows, let's do one show combining, as Seth said, what I think are an extraordinary group of people and elements and things we produce, and create the best possible opportunity to do a great show, one great show. And we're looking forward to doing that, and that's it.
Thanks, guys. All right, we'll begin with questions now, and I'm going to start with Brian Jeffra at the Big Lead, and then we'll go to Sam Farmer with the Los Angeles Times.
Hello, this question is for Seth. Seth, I was wondering if you could give us an idea of how many people you're going to have in the Bristol office, and also how you're ensuring those people are healthy, not only coming in, but also going out.
That's a great question. Thank you. You know, we've been up and operating, obviously, throughout the whole pandemic, and we've taken extraordinary steps at ESPN to make sure it's the safest environment for all of our employees. So even though the draft is obviously the biggest event we'll have done in Bristol during that time, you know, we've gotten some amazing things in place already that have made it really safe. The cleaning, obviously, that we've had in our campus is like nothing I've ever seen or ever will see again. We go through a rigorous process just as far as every employee that's going to be in the building to just, you know, obviously we're not testing at this point, but we are ensuring, you know, that, you know, we're talking to our people, hey, if you don't feel well, you don't come in. There's no heroes here. You know, with the social distancing that we've set up at the very beginning, and we've done, you know, we've been a leader in that. It will continue for the draft. Just to give you an example, is in a normal control room for an NFL draft event, we probably have about 15 people in a control room at one time. And if you add in some executives and sales people and things like that, you're probably looking at 20. We are limiting it to 7 for the draft. Everybody will be at least 6 feet apart, and I'll tell you, it's going to be more than that as I've seen the setup. we've actually expanded to 2 different control rooms for each of our broadcasts. So all the people that would normally be in one, we've now spread it out to 2. Everybody sort of has their own desk, their own area. The other thing is we are mandating that everybody wear masks at ESPN for our telecast. So not on the air, obviously, but I mean everybody behind the scenes in the control room. So it's tricky on a lot of levels. I mean, you're talking about producers wearing masks, trying to communicate with the talent, and everything that's going on in this broadcast is not ideal, but we do believe it's the safest environment, and the governor of Connecticut has also kind of told us that we need to do it that way. So I feel really good about it. We've had constant discussions with our employees. We have more coming just about the safety. We've never forced anyone to come into the building if they don't feel comfortable. And I think we're in a good spot. I don't have a total number. We can probably get that to you. Allie can get that to you offline. We're still working through that, but I will tell you it's significantly less overall than a normal draft year.
We'll go to Sam Farmer with the Los Angeles Times, and then Peter King with NBC.
Thanks for doing this, guys. Can you give us an idea of some of the technologies that you might use or that you plan to use, maybe beyond Zoom? Are there anything, sort of new technologies that will help in the production of this? And a glimpse of what it might look like. How we would differentiate this from the typical draft.
Mark, you want to talk about technology just as far as like the prospects, commissioner, and all that, and I can go into kind of what it looks like?
Yeah. Well, obviously, as was announced, the commissioner will be making the picks remotely. In addition to that, we have 58 prospects spread out all over the country that will be joining us via Wi-Fi signals. We also have the various clubs, GMs, coaches, plus a number of elements with special picks and a number of elements with shout-outs and tributes to first responders and medical professionals. That's a long way of saying, I think at last count, there was something in the neighborhood of about 170, 180 various elements and feeds coming from various parts of the country. To manage that, we grouped them, prospects, general managers, coaches, and others. And actually, we're running them through call centers, video call centers, that will collect them all and then send them on to ESPN in batches of smaller groups to make it manageable. Because in fairness, I mean, Seth and his team are fantastic, but the number of potential things that you can do at any given moment, the number of assets that you have, the number of sources that you have is just mind-boggling. So we're trying to make sure that we streamline that into ESPN, into Bristol, so that it becomes more manageable. We also have used a number of technologies to make sure that we have as many backups as we can, whether it happens to be Wi-Fi, whether it's uplinks, that type of thing. And I think that's really the challenge here is twofold. First of all, is to make sure all the technologies work. And that's been a massive effort by a number of people, including our NFL IT departments and the 2 broadcasting departments and engineering departments. And the second thing is to make sure that when Seth and his team produce both broadcasts, that we have an idea what we're trying to accomplish. And clearly it is about drafting players, but even more clearly it's about setting the tone that we understand that there's something much larger than us going on in the world, and how do we set that tone first thing on Thursday night, and how do we continue to maintain it through the 3 days of the draft. And we're working very hard with Seth and his team to make sure that we're accomplishing that, as well as using all the technology and all the 1,000 points of light coming in from all over the country to make sure that we're providing the best draft possible.
Yeah, it's perfect. I would just add, Mark laid it out really well. I think, I just want to thank our colleagues in Disney's DTCI technology team, who's also worked closely with Mark's group and the NFL, and has been just doing an unbelievable job for the past month, keeping our shows on the air and transitioning all of our talent to home cameras. So that's what you're going to notice the most from I think the second part of your question, Sam, what it looked like. Trey Wingo will be solo hosting this for ESPN NFL Network broadcast in Bristol on his own. We do have Susie Culver with him. She's going to be trying to do some interviews with prospects, hopefully if the technology holds. When guys get drafted, Susie will do some of the interviews that she normally does. Everybody else will be on home cameras. So, as Mark mentioned, there's so many different feeds coming in. On the ABC side, we do have a few more people in studio. Again, they'll be spread out. It'll look differently. But we have Reese Davis, Maria Taylor, and Jesse Palmer that are going to be in the studio together, just based on pure geography and how close they are to Bristol. It was easier to get them into studio. We just, from the ESPN NFL side, we were just trying to be as safe as possible, keeping as many people at home as possible.
We'll go to Peter King, and then Dan Caesar with the Post-Dispatch.
Good morning, guys. Can you just tell me how you're going to do, normally you have cameras in teams' draft rooms, for the far away wide angle shots. Have any GMs or coaches agreed to let you put a camera where they're doing the draft, and if so, who?
I can jump there. The commissioner meeting with the teams, meeting with the various committees, and I should note that the league itself talked about ESPN and proper social distancing. The draft itself, the execution of the draft, will be held the same way. Coaches will be individually in one place, GMs will be individually in another place. That's happening across the league, all 32 teams. We're also going to place cameras in all of those locations, all the coaches, all the GMs. We have protocols in terms of what we can show and when we can show it. They're not all the time, but we have general access to them, and also it's designed by the league to make sure that in this unusual situation that all the competitive areas of the draft are equal, and that everyone's has the same technology, the same availability to each other and to their other resources. So the answer is all teams will have cameras. I say teams, all coaches and all GMs will have cameras where they are drafting.
We'll go to Dan Caesar, and then Kevin Draper with the New York Times.
Hello, just wanted to see how complicated this is compared to a normal draft and also other events.
Yeah, I'll jump in. This is the most complicated event that I personally have been involved in, and I've been in ESPN. It'll be 27 years in June, so I'll let Mark answer that as well. But the coordination that it's taking, and the just magnitude of the event that we need to do here, and as Mark mentioned, the amount of feeds that are coming in, the technology that we're trying to use, all preparing for this where we can't, we haven't been face-to-face with our employees to have any kind of meetings. Obviously we're doing like everybody else. We've done, virtual meetings. I myself haven't even been in the ESPN building in 3 weeks, and, I'm planning on coming in next week for the first time in a while, and so is a lot of other people. So it's just been, it's complicated, and now we're adding, the joint broadcast, which is 100% the right thing to do, but, that adds another layer of kind of complications, and, we are also producing the ABC broadcast, at ESPN's headquarters as well, so that's another complication. So I just don't know what I can compare it to. It's certainly unique, and, we're excited about it, and, it's sort of kind of something that, ESPN employees, and I'll speak for Mark, and I know many people at the NFL Network, we do enjoy challenges. This isn't one we've ever wanted to have, and hopefully never have again. But I know everybody's going to rise up to this challenge, and we just have a lot of people that you say kind of this is what we want to do, and they just make it happen. And I feel really confident, but I will say it is damn complicated.
Yeah, I'm a little bit older than Seth, but I'd say the same thing. Obviously, been involved in Super Bowls, NBA Finals, Olympics, I mean, you name it. There's nothing that even comes close to this. And I think there's a lot of challenges, all the fees and everything. I think Seth would agree. The thing we're really focused on is communication. Not just communicating with so many more people than we ever have before simultaneously, but communicating with them, most of them remotely, and trying to make sure that all works. And I think that's going to be a huge, huge part of what we do is making sure not only that we have all the elements that we need, but making sure that everybody knows when they're needed, what we're going to do, that type of thing, all in real time. That's a huge challenge for everybody. I'd also say that what Seth said, obviously, we're here doing this, and nobody's happy for the obviously the reason why is just horrific. That said, I think everybody involved, and I think I can speak for Seth's people, we realize that this is not a normal draft, not in terms of just how we're executing it, but I think we all feel a special responsibility to do a spectacular, as best we can, meaningful draft for so many people, and I think that special sort of responsibility is driving everybody right now.
We'll go to Kevin Draper and then Colleen Kane with the Chicago Tribune.
Hi guys, I was wondering what you've learned over the last month from kind of doing remote broadcasts and things in terms of what sort of lower quality video feed or audio feed viewers will accept, or kind of where they'll understand and be charmed by the house shots, and where they won't, and where they expect kind of really high quality things.
Yeah, I'll speak to that since we've been doing this from day one here at ESPN. I think you said it. I think viewers have an unbelievable new understanding and tolerance for anything that we need to do at this point. I've watched shows on other networks where people are in their basements, or the signal isn't that strong, or people have headphones on, or ear AirPods or whatever they have in their ears, and I just will tell you that we have not gotten any feedback from viewers, being disappointed in the quality or what anything looks like. I think people understand it, and I think that they're appreciative that we are trying to do our best to create some normalcy, even though we can't, and also that we are being as safe as possible. I think, I would just say that I think everybody understands it's an extraordinary situation, and that, what they see is not what they're used to or what we'll hopefully go back to at some point. But, I think there's some things that, when we get through all this, we'll learn from, and also you may see more of, like we have so many home cameras now with our talent, that, in the future when there's major breaking news, we used to rely on a lot of phone calls and now, we've had everybody's homes outfitted such that, it will allow us to get many more faces and voices on TV instantly once we get through this, and that's just, kind of one of the good things I hope that'll come from this. Also, just the, how we've all learned and adjusted, to use different virtual technology to replace some in-person meetings and communicate with each other. I don't think those will go away.
We'll go to Colleen Kane and then Ben Strauss with the Washington Post.
Hey guys, I was just wondering about the Draftathon fundraiser for COVID relief efforts. How are you incorporating that into the broadcast?
Do you want me to start, Seth?
Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
The Draftathon is a huge a huge initiative, I think, across everything we're doing. By the way, not just, look, the raising money is important, obviously, and we're focused on that. That equally important is the message itself, the giving back message, and the we're all in it together message for so often. I mean, part of it's the messaging, too, part of it's the tone we want to take. But it will figure prominently across the ESPN NFL Network broadcast. It'll figure prominently, I think, something about the ABC broadcast. We're going to announce shortly that we're going to do a whole a bunch of things on social media and social streams that will hopefully drive that message, and also try to get out through more traditional communication channels. But I think you'll see it. And by the way, part of it's not just going to be a solicitation for money. Part of it is part of Draftathon is about saluting the first responders, the medical first responders, the people that are in grocery stores, all the stories that you see, and making sure that we give a proper salute and proper thank you to all the people that are not staying home every day and are keeping, not just people alive, but food on the table, that type of thing. And that's part of Draftathon as much as the money is, to be honest.
We'll go to Ben Strauss and then Barry Jackson with the Miami Herald.
Hey guys, I got two questions. First, you mentioned sort of the mask and having to get permission, from Connecticut government for sort of how to push ahead with this or do it so that it would be, within guidelines that they would approve. Can you sort of explain what those conversations were and, what information they said they needed, to bless this? And then, second question is, when you getting all this video equipment set up for GMs, coaches at all these places, how does that work? I guess is there, how do you sort of make sure that that's done basically with IT folks, going to people's houses and getting set up that way? I guess that's what precautions do you take and how does that work?
Sure. I'll take the first one because the Connecticut part, and I'll let Mark handle the second one. On the Connecticut part, look, we're an essential business, as you guys know. Media is deemed that in I think in most states, but I know we are in Connecticut deemed that. So we've just kept close contact, obviously, with the Connecticut government as far as all of our shows that we've maintained and had on the air. And there's certain guidelines we've kind of the latest one was last week's, which I mentioned earlier, which said even in essential businesses, you need to be wearing masks. So, that was the latest one we got that we quickly, got. At the time we got, it's not masks so much as face coverings. A small note there, but we got bandanas to all of our staff quickly to do that immediately at ESPN. And, we've asked them if they have their own mask, they can wear their own mask, or we will provide bandanas and eventually masks when we get enough to do that. But no, the Connecticut government, I know, obviously it's way above my level, but that we've been in touch with them and they understand what we're doing, broadcasting still, and that, we're providing a service to the viewer and in the safest way possible, and we'll continue to follow every guideline that they put in. And, they've asked us to limit how many employees need to be in the building to the absolute essential ones. So that's, I guess that's part of the reason I haven't been in a couple of weeks. I'm not that essential at this point until next week, hopefully. But, we've done a great job on that. So I'll let Mark answer the homes question as well.
Yeah, for the homes, for the prospects, for the coaches, for the GMs, the goal is, and by the way, almost all of the hardware for this has already been sent out or is in the process of being sent out, and the goal is to have it be self-installed. They come with instructions for the prospects, certainly, and we're going to provide tech support remotely, and we believe that the way we've got it set up will allow almost set up and for us to be able to test it and work on the shot so they can do it at home. That's certainly true of all the prospects. For coaches and GMs and others, same idea applies. Is there the possibility that we may need to provide help in person? Yes. That we have very strict protocols to do that, and we certainly will not go into anybody's house who doesn't feel comfortable that's not in there. But by and large, the vast majority of this, all of it, is designed so that hopefully we can have all these cameras installed and up and running based on people that are in their homes already doing it themselves. We're doing things like asking them to talk to their cable provider, trying to increase the bandwidth as much as possible so that the signals are stronger. So the goal is to try and self-install to a great degree.
Next up is Barry Jackson, and then Therese Taylor with Yahoo Sports.
Hi, two questions for Mark. Mark, you and Seth talked about how often we're going to see your talent on air over the course of the 3 days. Rich, Daniel, Michael Irvin, obviously. Kurt Warner, are we going to see him a couple times a show, once every hour? And then with your information, and obviously not going to be on air, Mike and Ian and Tom, would we see them be more active on social media? Will they be allowed to tweet pics, which they otherwise obviously would not if they had an on-air role?
First one. Seth and I talked about how to use our respective talent a lot. But the idea is not how much time. The idea, going back to the beginning, is let's create the best show we can, which we're still doing, by the way. We're still formatting, and Seth team's working hard on that. Formatting the best shows 3 days that we can, all right, without regard to who's saying what to who. And then figure out how the best way to integrate that is, who should be saying what. But I feel confident, Seth I think would back me up, that you will see Mel Kiper and Daniel Jeremiah on the screen at the same time, okay? You will see Kurt Warner and somebody from the NFL. The idea is not to do, let's do an NFL Network segment, let's do an ESPN segment. The idea is to use the people and their various expertises, okay, at the proper time, regardless of which network they happen to work for. And we're working very, very hard on that. The second one is, look, I think that with Ian and Tom and Mike and some of the other people, yes, you're going to see them a lot across social media channels. We're working hard. You're going to see, as I said, a few announcements on some of the things we're doing, but they'll be all over that. As it relates to the picks are the picks, and that is one thing that hasn't changed. Nobody gets to tweet anything until the pick comes out of the commissioner's mouth. And we feel very strongly about that, not just for us, but for our other partners as well. So they can comment all they want once the pick is announced. Until then, no.
We'll go to Therese Taylor and then Paul Domowitch with the Philadelphia Inquirer. Therese, can you hear us? Please check your mute. Okay, let's go to Paul Domowitch with the Philadelphia Inquirer.
This one's from Mark. Mark, at what point in this whole process did you realize it probably wasn't going to be doable to have a separate broadcast? And I mean, was building access at NFL Network and at Films in Mount Laurel basically the biggest roadblock to having a separate broadcast?
I don't think we really looked at it that way. I think we looked at it, as I said earlier, talking with Seth and then talking with our respective managements. We really looked at it and said, what's the best thing to do here for NFL fans? And as you've articulated, the lift here, technically, operationally, from a production standpoint, is extraordinary. Not just in terms of the overall, but in terms of doing so many things that we haven't done before. And to sit here and say, well, so that we can have two distinct broadcasts, we're going to do all of that twice. Which didn't make any sense. You sit there and say all that energy and all those resources and all that talent that we put into these shows would be better served bringing it together in a unified situation versus trying to do everything twice. That just, at the end of the day, once you get past the ownership quote part of it, the best way to do this was the way we're doing it now. It was less about the facilities, honestly, than it was about what was the best way to execute a very, very difficult show. Why make it two?
We'll go to Neil Bass with Newsday, followed by Mark Craig with the Star Tribune.
What can you guys tell us about exactly what the setup will be for the commissioner and how that's going to look in his house?
Not much. Not because I'm trying to keep it from you. Look, we're still working through it. Our events team and our design teams, the league design teams, working with obviously ESPN and the broadcasters. We're figuring all that out now. Literally, there are iterations of what it will look like, and is he standing, is he sitting, is he, all that sort of stuff. What's behind him, what's in front of him. All those things are coming into play and are still being worked on. I think we're getting there. But anything I told you now will probably be inaccurate 2 hours from now. So we're working it through.
We'll go to Mark Craig with the Star Tribune, and then Andrew Marchand with the New York Post.
It's something this massive and complicated, as you guys have explained. What's the biggest concern right now, and how much, obviously you couldn't do a test run with how exactly it's going to work, but how many test runs have you made, and what is your biggest concerns?
I think just all the technology is my biggest concern. I think, we can't do any test runs yet. We will do a bunch next week, towards the middle of next week, as close as we can to getting the draft on the air Thursday, so probably, Tuesday, Wednesday, and we would normally do some rehearsals anyway, and even if we were in Las Vegas, for instance, this year, but this will be a much greater rehearsal and to try to test all the technology. I think, we'd really like to still be able to talk to the prospects, to the players after they're getting drafted, to hear from them. On the ABC side, we had a lot of success last year with Tom Rinaldi interviewing player families to just, to change that broadcast a little bit, to make it a little more about the journeys and their families, and we want to try to do that again. So I think, with all the complications, I just want to make sure that we can still have some of those moments. I think the draft will work. Like the draft, the teams and the getting the picks in and all that's going to work, and that's going to be fine, and that's not really our main concern anyway. But I think just making sure that all these outlets that we have to try to get different shots of players and hear from players and teams, that we get all of that. I think that's just, kind of what keeps me up a little bit at night, but I do have great confidence, and that's what I keep saying is I know the people that are working on this, and I know, even though we're working with smaller crews and in extraordinary times, like, I think we're going to be fine, but, like, until we actually see it on the air, we can't be 100% sure.
Next up is Andrew Marchand, and then Heidi Tsang with the Las Vegas Review-Journal.
Hey guys, I have two questions. I'm going to ask them one at a time. And if you said at the beginning, I missed the first 10 minutes, so I apologize. So, just one of the big things about the draft always is the fans, in terms of their reaction. Is there a way that you're going to try to incorporate the fans, and if so, how?
I'll take this. We are testing I guess we call it a virtual fan concept. Where there'll be a bunch of fans for each team individually in their homes, safe distancing, and can we aggregate that into a group? To be honest with you, we're still working it through, and by the way, that's a gazillion more feeds. So I don't know where it's going to finally end up, but it's not lost on us that the fans are usually a big part of the draft experience on site. And Clearly, we can't replicate that, but we are looking at a bunch of measures to try and figure out how we bring fans into the equation.
And we've asked, just one thing to add to that, Andrew, is we've asked at ESPN, you may have seen some of our talent tweeting this out, we've asked for some fan videos, for some fans to send in some videos of them in advance, their excitement over the draft, chants, whatever. So we plan on incorporating those from time to time into the broadcast where appropriate. So we are cognizant of it, like Mark said. We've talked about some different ways. That is something that, we can't replicate what Nashville had last year or all the years of Radio City or all the reactions of the fans. So, we know we can do a great job analyzing the players, telling you where they fit into their teams, debating whether it was a good or bad pick. But you're right, the energy and the fans, that's something that we're never going to be able to replicate.
Okay, and my second question, and I'll start with Mark, if you want to chime in as well, feel free. But Mark, how would you define success for just the first day? Let's just start with that. How would you define success for that day for you guys?
Well, I think obviously there's a couple of different metrics. One metric is were we able to execute all the draft picks? Number one. Were we able to tell the stories around those draft picks and what they mean to the team? Saying that is similar to past drafts. We're executing it a little differently, but were we able to execute the picks and were we able to tell people what it all means? The second thing, as I mentioned before, is making sure that we set the proper tone starting Thursday night at 8 and make sure people understand that we know that the draft hopefully will provide, as Seth said, provide a distraction or some type of compelling content for people to see. That said, that we understand that there's a much bigger environment out there, and how do we do it, communicating that and weaving that into the broadcast as important elements of getting back and understanding that we're all a much larger thing together. That, to me, will be the biggest factor in success.
Next up is Heidi Fang, and then Brian Steinberg with Variety.
Hello. My question is just what emotions does any of the athletes or the talent express that they aren't really able to be a part of the fan events that were planned in Las Vegas and all the fanfare that was expected?
Yeah, I can talk about the talent. Obviously, I don't pretend to know. I can imagine the athletes that are disappointed, but I can just tell you that we had such an amazing plan for Las Vegas, put together between NFL Network and ESPN, many meetings, and the city itself. Our partnership with Caesars there is very important to us, and the hospitality that we were shown was just amazing from all aspects of the city. And our guys are upset. They understand, obviously, now it's not an option. They know that, but they're disappointed, and they are excited. I've told them that the hope is that it will be back there.
We'll go to Brian Steinberg with Variety, and then Matt Baker with the Tampa Bay Times.
Thanks very much. And I was just curious to give a little more detail on the ABC broadcast. Last year was a little more, celebrity-oriented, brand-oriented with Robert Roberts and Taylor Swift. What will you be able to do this year, and how are you kind of differentiating it from the ESPN NFL Network broadcast?
Yeah, good question. I think, yes, last year we did have a little more of the celebrity factor. It's not appropriate to do that this year, in our opinion. We will have some brief appearances from some ABC folks during this show, but for the most part, what we're looking at is, and we did this last year, is we believe we differentiated by really focusing on the player journeys and getting to know the individual players much more than you get to know them on the ESPN NFL Network side. Not to say that you don't get to know them somewhat on that side, but this is where we really can spend more time getting their backgrounds, their stories. There's so many amazing stories that we can stop, and when they get drafted, kind of park there and spend a few minutes telling, the audience where they came from. We had some amazing results last year as far as who was watching the ABC broadcast. Like we saw such a lift in the amount of women that were watching, and more casual fans. And that just goes to kind of when you do something on a broadcast network versus an ESPN or an NFL network, you're going to get a broader audience. So we think that storytelling that we're going to continue to do will be kind of the biggest difference. And we had some of that last year. We'll continue. We were able to talk to a lot of the players before all this happened. At the combine, we sat down with a lot of the players, so their stories are. I've scanned through some of this. We have over 70 of these storytelling vignettes, we'll call them, and they're exceptional.
We'll go to Matt Baker and then Ben Fisher with Sports Business Journal.
Hey Mark, you said a couple different times that you want this to provide a distraction, but also an understanding that there's something much bigger going on. So given those two things, what kind of tone do you want the broadcast to have?
I think the tone is, yes, we're doing a draft, and we hope that provides some entertainment, some comfort, and maybe some minor sense of normalcy. And it's clearly not a normal world right now. So that part of the draft is important, and we think that we want to do a great job of that for those reasons. And also acknowledging the fact, as I said, that it is taking place in a time that is creating a lot of stress for a lot of people. There's obviously tragedy involved, there's a lot of things involved, but also clearly heroic moments by so many people. And we think that's an important thing to get across. Be it any of the medical frontline people, like I said, there's a lot of people out there. People working in grocery stores, people delivering the mail, all those types of things. And we want to acknowledge that the draft that we're doing. And hopefully the comfort and, again, some level of normalcy, I hope, that we're providing, even within the context of understanding what's going on in people's lives, because those are our fans, okay? And those are the families of our fans. And we want to make sure that we're, and by the way, we talk a lot about what the balance is, and we're still talking about it.
Ben has disconnected, so we'll go to Michael McCarthy with Front Office Sports, and followed by Richard Ryman with the Green Bay Press Desk.
Hey guys, two questions. First for Mark and Seth. What kind of potential audiences do you think you could draw for this during this sports shutdown? And then Seth, I want to ask you, what has been the impact of ABC doing its own draft on the overall coverage?
Sure. I guess I can go first there. Look, I'm not even going to offer a guess on the ratings. This event annually draws a really, really big audience. There's obviously a lot of anticipation this year. I think Mark and I both thought, even before all this happened, based on the quality of the class, which we've kind of lost, a little sight of over the last few weeks, which we can understand. But we normally talk about quality of class, and this one is right up there. You have household names, big quarterbacks, college stars, national champions. So I think we were set up for a big ratings year anyway, I think. But I think, because of the circumstances we're all in, I think we're just waiting kind of to see. I think we're optimistic about it, realistically, I think you all know we don't have the competition we may normally have, whether it be NBA playoffs or other sports, baseball, that we would normally get. So I think there's more eyeballs and more anticipation. But I wouldn't even hazard a guess right now. I forgot what you said. Go ahead, Mark. You want to answer that one?
Yeah, I just said I have no idea what the audience is. To be honest, I haven't really thought much about it. We're so focused, I think, on trying to produce this thing. Obviously, I think a lot of people will watch, but haven't really even thought about how many. And right now, it's not that important, to be honest.
Yeah. What was the second question there?
Maureen, would you mind opening Michael's mic? Michael, your line is...
Yes, the second question was for Seth. Can he talk about the impact of ABC joining the coverage?
Got it. Yeah, I'm sorry, I forgot that, Mike. It's been a great thing for us, actually. We've for the last couple of years, we've kind of, thought, and this goes to years and years ago. I think one of the mistakes we made sort of was thinking of this only as an NFL event. And, at least on our side, over the last couple of years, we said, we're underserving a little bit of an audience here that's a, twofold. One would be a college, audience that knows these players, loves these players, spent the last 3 or 4 years with these players. And the other audience, I think and I mentioned it earlier, Michael, is that we underserved, a female audience and a general audience, and I think on the ABC side, that was something that we focused on. And last year, I was just reminded, last year, we grew our female audience, or our female audience overall was 46% female on ABC. So that's sort of an amazing statistic of, when you can draw in that kind of a female audience for an event like this. And I think, that group, for the most part, in our group, in our research afterwards, were really drawn in on that storytelling I mentioned. The time we took to really, tell the stories of the kids, to get behind the scenes with their families. That's how we feel like we can separate the two broadcasts. And the great news last year was that, the first year we did the ABC broadcast, it didn't hurt the ESPN number at all, and from a rating standpoint. So these were new people that came into to watch the draft. So, we produce both broadcasts. So we work closely together. We use, we use the same resources. It's not a whole bunch of extra people, especially in these times. So we're pretty efficient, and we like the fact that we have given the viewers a couple different choices.
We'll go to Richard Lyman and then Alex Silverman with the Morning Consult.
I believe all my questions have been covered. Thank you.
You bet. We'll go to Alex Silverman with the Morning Consult.
Hi, thanks. I don't have anything further either. Appreciate it.
Alrighty. Let's check in with Hiroki Toda.
Wanted to ask, how could this draft be a model for maybe other sports draft or maybe other countries' draft? Thank you.
I'm sorry. I think that we discussed about other drafts. Is that what it was, Allie? Other sports drafts?
Could you repeat that one more time for us?
Yes. Since this pandemic is going, I was wondering how this draft will be a role model, maybe for other sports' draft.
Got it. Yeah. So I can answer that quickly. We have the WNBA draft on Friday night. I think that'll be interesting and a lot of similarities to this one. We've worked together closely with those folks at ESPN. A lot of similar technologies being used, so I think that'll be similar. I've actually heard from some of our folks at the MLB Network, our friends over there. They're preparing for a baseball draft, so they've checked in with me as far as how we're doing this one. So I think they're already looking at some of their options as well, and we're happy to help them with some of our learnings. And then eventually the NBA draft, we'll, whether that happens on time or is pushed back most likely. I think could be in a position of having to do this again for that draft. So I think, what Mark and I kind of were sort of the guinea pigs here a little bit, but we'll have some successes and some failures that hopefully some folks can learn from down the road.
Yeah, and I think Seth makes a great point. And I also think, as in many things, necessity being the mother of invention, we're going to find some things here that to your question, years from now, we may, next year, the year after, whatever, will be incorporated in drafts, not because there's unfortunate necessity, but we figured out that, my gosh, it can be additive. We can cover things in a different way and make it broader and more entertaining. So I think there'll be a few of those examples.
I know we do have more people waiting on the line today. I apologize. We are running out of time. So please look for future advisories. We have a couple more calls this week. And if you need anything specifically from ESPN, from NFL Network, please feel free to reach out to me or Andrew Howard. We'd be glad to help. And the audio replay of this call will be available later today at ESPNpressroom.com. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a great rest of your day.